Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween season. Welcome to the very first episode of the October lineup here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I am your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill and Wandering Scribe. And today, our first guest is a very special one. She is a Manchester based writer dabbling in fantasy, horror, thriller, romance, and more. With a love of mythology, history, gaming, and fantasy from a young age, she developed an excellent imagination very fast that serves her well to this day for creating stories. She has been writing since the age of 14, has been on different platforms, but is now on Inkit, where myself and a lot of other authors began, where she has won awards and has had many stellar reviews, as well as Kindle, Lulu, and Apple books. When she isn't writing, she enjoys running her free writing promotion page on Instagram, the Writers Community Promotion page that also has reading and writing groups along with watching TV and films in the same genre she writes in, as well as playing a lot of zombie horror survival games. She also enjoys spending time with her friends and family, making a cracking brew, and hopes that readers enjoy her stories as she has zero plans to ever stop. So, without further ado, let's give a huge round of applause to today's guest and headliner of the October lineup, author, writer, and more, Caryce Leigh Brierley. Caryce, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is such an honor.
It is. It's so nice to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, I know you're not just a little circle on an Instagram picture. oh, oh, hello, hello. Oh dear, technical difficulty.
Ah, there we are. All good, all good. But yeah, it's so nice to finally have you on the show. And honestly, it is great. And for
Hello.
oh, you're good. You're good. You're good, Caryce. All good.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I have just slipped over to my data. There have been some storms and things, and a lot of torrential rain in my part of the world recently. So I don't know if
Mm.
that's affecting it, maybe. But I'll just stay on my internet data for now. Sorry about that.
You're all good. You're all good. Trust me, this show has had its fair share of internet stuff, but you're all good. But yeah, I mean, it's so nice to finally have you on the show and to learn more about you as a writer, as well as your community that you build, which I'm so excited to delve in deeper and share with the viewers and listeners. But before we get to that, is there anything else you'd like to add about your background as a writer or just as a person? Or did we pretty much cover all that in the bio?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I do have a day job where I work in retail. I am soon moving out, and I've plans to delve into some other genres of books and possibly expand more with the promotion page. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, all right. So let's actually just dive right in. So in your bio, you said that you've been writing since the age of 14. So what would you say truly was your aha moment that you knew writing was not just simply a hobby, but definitely something that was a passion and that could be built upon?
I would say when I got to about the age of 15 or 16, I had an English teacher who was very encouraging with my own writing, because before then I only used to do things like fan fiction. I was on Wattpad for a while, but then I'd left due to how things were changing on there. But it was really that started to make me think, okay, I'm not terrible at this. And I enjoyed reading as a kid, and just English literature in high school was my favourite out of all of my subjects. I did really well in it. It was one of the best grades I got out of high school. But yeah, I just thought, okay, I want to do this, and it's taken me a while to get to the point where I've like feel like I'm proper in what I do with my writing. Like, I'm not just doing it as a hobby. It's like, this is something I can start to earn from, and I have started earning from it just over a year ago. But yeah, it was around and about then, in that time, that I figured it out.
All right, nice. And would you like to share with our viewers and listeners any of the books that you have published or even written on Inkit?
Yeah, so my debut novel was a short thriller romance story that was also born in an English literature. Um, it was a little assignment that we did, and it just kind of went from there. And again, my English teacher was so encouraging. It is called The Unexpected. It's got 4.7 reviews, star reviews on Amazon. It's available on a lot of different platforms as well as Inkit subs. I have a lot of ongoing stuff on Inkit. I have a mixture of my own stuff as well as fan fiction. One of my other main projects is a mythology young adult series. It's again still in its very early days, but it's going to be very grand, similar to the likes of Lord of the Rings, Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, things like that. I've got a couple of other things as well. I've got a zombie apocalypse book. I've got a lot of different stuff going on, and it's just writing it and also not going between projects, because I'm someone who will just flip between projects on a different day. But yeah, got quite a few bits.
Nice. That actually, that sounds just like me when I was writing one of my stories, which finally did get finished, but I was in between, like, just like you, as you said, between projects. And for me, that was like too much because I go really in depth. So I realized, okay, I have to put aside one project to work on the other. And I was supposed to work on or go back to my old project, The Failed Quest. But just recently, I began writing a new story, one that's kind of out of my comfort zone. Don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a World War II period piece drama, which I've never done at all. So it's entirely out of my realm, but it is a really good story. But I don't want to spoil it too much, so I will just leave it as there. But yeah, I could definitely, harken to what you're saying, going back between projects. It's not easy. You have to consider, okay, which one do I really want to finish working on and go from there. And speaking of projects, when you published your first novel, your debut novel, what sort of goals did you have in mind going into that process, as well as what were the things you wanted to check off or keep in mind for your prospective readers in terms of, okay, I want them to feel this, I want them to experience this, and so forth?
So this book was not something that I planned on making the book that I debuted in. I just decided towards the beginning of last year, I wanted to get something finally out there. And I was looking back at this story and remembering how special it was, and that it was sitting with some good reviews. It was there, and I thought, you know what, I want to move forward with this. It's like, it's now or never type thing. Like, I'm 20, like I was nearly 25 years old. I'm nearly like a quarter of a century old, and I talk a big game about wanting to do X, Y, and Z with my writing. And I've seen so many amazing writers debut on all kinds of different ways. It's like, I can do this, and I wanted to set myself the goal of having it done by the end of last year, and I did. It debuted on the 25th of October. So it's nearly a year old. And yeah, I was just really wanting to hone in on the message of this book, and just really make the reader feel all kinds of emotions and just be like, oh my goodness, what is going on with this in the short story, because it's less than 80 pages long. But I've had some very, very good reviews. One of my friends said it physically made them like cringe and feel uncomfortable. And I was just like, in a particular moment, I'm like, yeah, that's what I was going for. So yeah.
Nice. And speaking of reviews, what has been like the overall feedback for not just this story, but the other stories that you have written, especially on Inkit, well, because for those who don't know, Inkit is a writing platform that, authors can write their stories and their followers can read it. And it's where a lot of us got started. Like, I got started on Inkit like way back in the day. I want to say maybe 2018, 2019. And then for my other guests that have been featured on the show, Kim started on Inkit. Lori Ball started on Inkit, which she's still on Inkit for her story, and just so many. And it is nice to get really good feedback from the community. So, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Inkit and sort of like the reviews you've gotten from the people?
Yeah, I've had some very, very good pieces of feedback from Inkit, because obviously Inkit does also do a review feature similar to Amazon, but it's also a lot more helpful because you can give stars about certain things, and I find that to be a lot more helpful than just comments about whatever. I have had some good, and they did reactions too, which I do find helpful, but they've also had good comments about certain projects, because I have another one on Inkit, another book called 1 Year, which is a parody-esque talk type thing of 365 days. And I wanted it to be still thriller, but also at times a little bit funny, but also a bit like kind of delving into the adult side of it, but also just like what you should do in a kidnap situation. And I've had so many great comments about that. I've had some people that have just absolutely understood it. I've also had one or two that have just completely missed the mark, and I'm like, that's the point. That's meant to be like this. But I've had some good stuff. I've had some really great feedback on my other book, that is the mythology one, Creature-Seers. I've had people be like, oh, I respect the research type thing, or I respect how you handled this thing, because Creature-Seers, it's one of those where it's like, yes, there's a mythology aspect, but it is still following the lives of a group of 3 teenagers as they navigate growing up and things like that, and relationships and their identity, and just figuring out who they are in the world and what they want to do. And I've had some good feedback from that too.
Awesome. And would you say that the feedback has, in a sense, validated your goals that you set out with any project that you've worked on?
Definitely. It's given me a real indicator, because I was able to get a few beta readers from Inkit, and I got 1 or 2 from outside of it, but most of them did come from Inkit. So it was really helpful to be like, oh, this is working well, or you could edit how you put this, or maybe reword this, or go into more detail here, which is just always a helpful thing, because it's not just it was good. Like, I love getting feedback on my work. I love it when people are like, I really liked this bit here, or I think you could reword this a little bit better. If they can explain it and they're just like, yeah, here and here, or they can give an example, I love that, and I'm so grateful for that.
Definitely. Reviews are really, really powerful, and they really help us as authors expand our brand. But I definitely feel, especially for first-time authors, reviews can be a little bit intimidating. And that actually leads perfectly into the first reflective question, which I'm eager to hear your thoughts on, Caryce, which is this, that writing a book, as I've said numerous times on the show, is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's hours and hours, if not years, just to develop the first draft. And from the first draft, it's fine-tuning it, finding an editor, finding a cover artist, finding a site that's going to promote your book or sell your book at the best possible rate for the large consumer audience. And then once you've made the decision whether to go indie or traditional, your book's out there. And there's that sense of anxiety that sort of builds up, where is it going to sell well? Are people going to enjoy it? Are people going to understand the intentions I had writing this, and so forth? And then the imposter syndrome also coincides with the anxiety, which that could easily mess up an author. So for you, Caryce, for you as an author and your own personal journey, have you ever had those moments of anxiety or imposter syndrome? And if not, what has still disciplined you to write and create new stories for your audience?
Yeah, I definitely have had moments like that. I wouldn't say when I've had reviews that have been negative, because I'm very fortunate in that whenever I've had negative reviews, like I've had someone give on one of my books, they just gave a 1-star review saying, "Don't read this, it was terrible." And yeah, that was on Inkit. But I asked, I said, "Hi, what makes you think that?" And they didn't respond. And for me, when I get reviews like that, it just literally just over my head. Don't think about it, because it's very clear that that person has not read the book. They've just not. They're just leaving a hate comment. And I would say to any author, if you get those, just block them out. Honestly, don't listen. I do sometimes get a bit thingy with feedback where it's a little bit more detailed, but if I don't understand it, that can kind of knock me back a little bit, and it can make me rethink things, and it can just make me think, well, how am I going to do this, or how am I going to work on portraying this theme, or how am I going to do this? Like my brain just goes, but it takes a lot. Usually what I'll do is I'll either take a break from a certain project and I'll go on to something else, or I might even take a break from writing completely and just play, I don't know, like play The Last of Us again, or just, you know, read another book, or go watch a film or something like that. I don't know, I will just do something to distract my brain, and then I will come back to it and just resume from there.
Definitely. You know what, I 100% agree with you. You know, if it's feedback where it's critical and they say, "Oh, I didn't like this book for these reasons," and they give like really good reasons, okay, that is really good. Because I remember another author saying, it's good to get positive feedback, but it's also good to have a little bit of criticism, constructive criticism, to balance it out, because it does show that, oh, is this not, are these people just like spammers that are just spamming just 5-star reviews? If you have like a few constructive criticisms where it's like a 3-star or a 4-star, then it's like, okay, now it balances itself out. But like 1 star, I've had one person say they had a 1-star review, and just like you, Caryce, it just said, "Oh, didn't like this book, was awful," and it's like, okay, but why though? No one's gonna read it, and it's very, very true. And that's all this business mindset and just growing, you know, our talents for writing and growing our brands as authors, which now perfectly segues to the business portion of the interview, the business side of being an author. Now, Caryce, when you made the decision to publish your short story, did you initially have the intention to be an indie author, or did you write query letters to traditional publicists in the UK to be a traditional author?
No, I didn't inquire about going down the traditional route, purely because I prefer to have it be in control. I prefer to be in control of my own writing, where I distribute it, how much I set for it. Yes, there are benefits of traditional publishing, but it's my personal preferences. I want to have ownership of my book babies and where they get put and how much I earn from them, and just have that freedom. I find that personally to be more important to me. Not trying to say that all publishers are evil or greedy or whatever. It's just, I've heard some horror stories, and just for that, I would prefer to just say, I can have this here when I want to. I have full ownership over it. I even own my book's ISBN number. Like, I didn't use the one from Amazon because I thought, no, I want to have this be mine, just in case if I want to publish it somewhere else or something changes. And yeah, that's my personal preference of how I went about it. And I know more about how the indie the indie publishing scene works because of working with people like you and many other authors who have some, even if it's just on a platform like Inkit, for example, they have some knowledge about how self-publishing works.
Definitely. And that's a huge thing, viewers and listeners. As I said numerous times on the show, for indie authors, yes, we have the creative control, but the biggest and most difficult task is marketing and promotion, because it's all on us. We have to do it 24/7. We really have to pump our books. And that's even before the book's even out. We really have to make either book trailers, get like ARC readers, beta readers, try to get people really hyped up for the book. I remember with Michael, a lot of people were very interested and very intrigued. And I was like, okay, I really got to set this up really well. So I had a good friend of mine make a book trailer, and that trailer, which is on both of our accounts, has over 50,000 views as of now, which is incredible. And the ARC readers that I've had, thank you to all my ARC readers who have read Michael. I greatly appreciate it. Were very, very helpful. And they posted their reviews, and it really generated a lot of interest. And speaking of promotion and marketing, you, Caryce, that you are also busy on that side of the industry where you run your own page on Instagram. So for those that may not follow you, can you tell our viewers and listeners about the Instagram page that you run and how it sort of came about?
Yeah, so the Writers Community Promotion page is a free community-based promotion page where free promotion is done. There are book groups for readers, there's a writers group, there's book recommendation groups, there's all sorts going on. And as I said, it's all done for free. Everybody that you see, all the people that are following and interacting, they are all real people. There's no bot followers, none of that BS. There's no fake engagement, there's no spamming, none of that. Everything is done organic, everything is done for free, and it is done purely to just help writers and readers connect in authentic ways and help just share writers and other creators related to books, just to get them out there.
Definitely. And I know that from, firsthand. I've been very fortunate to have almost like all three of my books promoted on the writers promotion page, which have been instrumental in generating interest. And
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm very glad. It always makes me happy when I'm hearing people being like, yeah, it's helped. And I'm like, yes, it's working.
And actually, kind of from that, Caryce, were you a little intimidated of whether or not it would actually be a success in terms of, like, as you said just now, yes, it's a success. Were you hesitant at all in creating this community?
I wouldn't say hesitant. I would say I didn't expect it to do as well. I thought it would have flopped, to be honest. I thought it wouldn't have lasted, even though I'm very, very disciplined in how I do it, and I'm very dedicated to how I do it because I have a strict plan on what I do. And it is done to, like I said, to help writers and readers connect and help other people related to Bookstagram and writing. But it's also done because I had enough of seeing all these big spammy self-promotion problems on Instagram and all the social media platforms. And I was seeing so many accounts that were just promoting to bot followers, and they would just keep popping up over and over and over, and Instagram just wasn't doing anything about it. So I was just like, F it, I'm going to do something about this. And now it's nearly at 3,000 followers when it's nearly 3 years old. And like it's been doing really, really great. And I love to be able to just see that a difference is being made, even if it's just an extra follower or an extra book sold or someone reading someone's poetry that they post and be like, hey, I really like this. It helps. And yeah, it's such a fun thing to do. I honestly thought it wouldn't be as well as it was doing, and I wouldn't get the chance to, well, the chances that I've had, such as this interview here right now.
Definitely, 100%. And, the writers community page has been, great. I love seeing the interaction, especially on the writers side with, their writings, their poetry, and how pretty much the ages vary between, people who are either still in like school doing academics or people who are older who are now just getting into writing. And it's not even just stories. Sometimes I've seen a lot of people on that page who are poetry writers, which is crazy. Because I definitely feel, even though I myself have dabbled in a few poems here and there, it's crazy seeing how many poets there are on that page, and just seeing, the feedback and just the bond that formed. Because that's another thing too, which I think you definitely agree, Caryce, is that the indie author community is a very supportive place because we're all in the same
Yeah,
boat. I know a
definitely.
lot of people would say, from the outside that, since we're in this industry, it's a very cutthroat industry and we're trying to sabotage one another. That is not the case, viewers and listeners, because as I said, we're all in the same boat. We all want to get our names out there, but we also have to realize some people may have a little bit more experience than us in other fields, so we have to learn. And it's sort of just like this give cycle where we just give our knowledge on certain aspects and someone gives us information to improve our own writing and just to build our brands as we progress in this journey of ours. Now, another thing which I think is very critical for an author is learning about the audience and really taking into consideration who the audience is. Now, Caryce, going back to your short story, did you have your audience in mind when writing it? And in your opinion, how important is the audience in a sense? Should the author already have them in mind before or after the writing is done?
See, when I was writing it, I was 16, and as someone who, again, I said before, grew up on Wattpad, I just saw so many um, just romance books that were just a little bit like, I'm not sure about this, but do you? And I kind of wanted to be a bit of like the anti of that type thing, like the anti this type
Okay, I know
deal.
what
I
you're
find
saying.
that a few times to just be like moral of this story type deal with it. I don't want to spoil my book too much as well. That's why I'm
Of
saying
course.
I just wanted to be a bit anti. And I'm not against certain stories like that by doing this. It's just this is my maybe think about this, be careful what you wish for type deal, because it is a story, but it's it's not, it's a story type thing. But I think with that, I never really thought of having a certain audience, because I've seen so many different people read this book. Like I've seen on my demographics on Inkit, for example, I've seen people from all different kinds of countries, like the US, Canada, Germany, the UK, Australia, Belgium, South Africa, all over. And I think things like that do help, but I don't think you should also just limit yourself to that. I think there should be just like a bit of a guide type thing if you're not sure. But I also think it's important to maybe test the waters in other similar areas. Like, for example, if you have a lot of readers who are in their mid-20s, maybe try early 30s, maybe give that age bracket a bit of a target, see if some people from that like it. Or if you have a lot of readers from a certain country, try maybe a neighboring country of that. Like, for example, you got a lot of readers in the US, why don't you try Canada? Maybe some people there might like that. And just don't, I wouldn't say don't limit yourself to that, because some people don't have the privilege of having things like demographics. They're just like, I don't know, I'm just going to hope for the best. And some people just go off of certain tropes or certain genres. And again, you can be so surprised. Like, you might think a person who's in like their late 30s would enjoy this, that lives in this country, but someone who's in their 60s in this country enjoys it as well, because they just like that genre. And I think just, again, a bit of a healthy balance between it. Like, don't just dedicate yourself to that particular audience, because you might find that you're missing out on a completely different audience in a different field.
Definitely. And that almost ties in also to the readership too, like the age group. And I'm sure you would definitely agree that there are certain books that are supposed to be marketed towards one age group or one demographic, but upon reading it, you realize this needed another review because there is some stuff in here that's not young adult. It should be either new adult or adult. So what is sort of like, your thoughts on that? Like, really understanding the readership, because yes, the audience is important, but the audience is a very broad spectrum, because the readers are the individuals who are going to pick up your story and read it.
Yeah, I agree there, because it is difficult to sometimes narrow it, like you said with the young adult, new adult book. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish between those because certain things can be blurred, if that makes sense. Like they can blur between the three or between two of them. But I would just say, as long as certain things that are in it, certain subjects that are in a book, for example, that shouldn't be read by, say, I don't know, like 13, 16-year-olds, as long as clear distinctions are made between that, I think it's fine. Like, I don't think there has to be so much of a tie. Obviously, someone who's in their 30s isn't going to want to read about someone who's, or may not want to read about someone who's about to start college, because that's not something that they may be able to relate to. And advertising that book as someone for someone who's in their 30s might not be the most successful thing to do. But again, I would, going back to what I was saying before, I wouldn't say that it's like the most tying thing, because some people are into different things, like I said.
Right.
And yeah, I would just say just proper warnings about X, Y, and Z stuff, like you would do when you go to the films, you know, with the OPG, etc. Right? And I think that if that's the case, then it's fine. But and again, with genre stuff, as long as it's relevant, like you wouldn't say that something that is horror is advertised as like a romance book if there's like no love story, if that makes sense. Like if it's just a horror and it's trying to be advertised as a romance, that's just confusing. But I think, yeah, as long as like the clear marks are made there, I think in terms of who you advertise it to can be a little bit more flexible. But it's just about like common sense, for want of a better word.
Definitely. And then another question, which I really want to hear your thoughts on. Well, I'll lay down some context for this. I'm sure you've definitely seen in the bookstores a book that has had this phrase, the next so-and-so, the next J.K. Rowling, the next C.S. Lewis, or C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien combined, or something along those lines. And from a reader's perspective, that's intriguing, because now that's grabbed our interest of two authors that, even if you've never read either of their books, you have a certain idea of the kind of stories they've written. And you go into that book saying, oh, okay, it's going to be like this. But from an author's perspective, I had one author say that that is probably the worst thing that can happen for an author, in his opinion. You know, going back to what we talked about before, individuality for indie authors, we want to showcase our writing style, who we are as authors, the type of stories that we tell, and how we tell them. Yes, we are always influenced by books that we've read growing up, our favorite authors, and so forth. But as he said in his interview, we should not imitate or replicate any writer tropes or elements from these titans, because ultimately we're not trying to be like so-and-so. We're not trying to be like this person. We want to be ourselves. And how he ended it was, when someone picks up my book, I want them to get an idea of like, oh, this is how he writes. So that way, when the next book comes out, even if it's an entirely different one from a different series, they know what to expect from this author. So I would wonder if you could provide your own thoughts on that.
I do understand where that writer is coming from, and I would be a little bit distressed if someone said, "Oh, she's the next, she's the next, like this person, like a Tolkien or something like that." Because number one, no, I'm not. You can't compare me to the grandfather of fantasy. You literally cannot do that. Like, that's stupid. Like, are you having a laugh? That would be my answer if someone turned around and said that to me. But I also understand that saying something is similar to something else or has a similar feel to something can also help certain people figure out if they want to read it for themselves. Like, for example, I've got a book, it's ongoing, it's not been published yet, but the way I've been describing it is, think The Mummy with a bit of Dracula and Train to Busan. That's how I've been describing it to certain people.
Okay, that's actually pretty
and
good.
I think that can be used to indicate similarities. Like, you know, if you see a post that's like, if you like this, you'll like this.
Yes,
Just to
numerous
help. I think
times.
those things can be helpful, but I do agree that we should still be, of course, maintaining our individualities as authors, because then we run the risk of plagiarism. Like, there's
Yes.
some people that have just raised eyebrows at certain books, like especially if, like, certain genres like fantasy or certain ones in romance, if they keep doing the same things, or you're seeing certain parallels between a couple of authors, there's like, oh, hang on a minute, no, this is not just similarities due to their being in the same genre, this is borderline plagiarism. And
Yes.
but yeah, I do agree with that author, but I also think it can be beneficial, because you sometimes do see it in other forms of entertainment, like film or television, like this is the next this, or if you like this, it's type, it's like this type thing, or never have we seen something as good as this genre before type thing. And a happy balance, I would say, like everything.
Definitely, 100%. And, we all trying to get our voices out there. And going back to what you said, I definitely think there is that, appeal to try to get the audience to enjoy stories like that. But you run into a big issue of, like, hopping onto the gravy train in the publishing world, especially like clicks and tropes, which are prevalent, especially in the romance fantasy genre, which is the dominant subgenre in the publishing world, because I can travel over different genres. It's cross genre. You can have horror, romance, fantasy, historical romance, fantasy. It's just crazy. And that kind of leads into a very big question, which a lot of people provide their own insights into this. And that is, for first-time authors, when writing their book, they always have this imagination of, what their future is going to be like and where they see themselves. And doing this show now for 2 years now, it will be 3 years this coming December, which is crazy.
Wow.
I've come to realize that there's two paths for authors, whether it's indie or traditional, and that is to be an author and to be known as an author, because they're very two different things. Be an author is an individual who's dedicated to the art of storytelling, not solely motivated by capital. And to be known as an author is an individual dedicated to the art of marketing and promotion, where they're trying to get their story out on every platform, go on every show, and so forth. And every journey has its own hurdles and trials. These two are no exception. However, the second path, to be known as an author, is the most enticing, but you run into the issues of unrealistic long-term goals. And that is something that is very important to talk about. And you've ultimately run into the issue of you're no longer motivated through passion to write. You're just writing just to get a paycheck or some kind of royalty. And it boils down to this that I learned from another author, which is there is no guarantee in the publishing industry that your debut novel is going to start your legacy. But I will concede that I have met authors whose first books launched them into award-winning status and allowed them to live off of said royalties to create new stories. Now, that's not an easy thing to do. It's a very difficult thing, and sometimes it's either by luck or by pure chance. But on the other side of the coin, you have authors that are in this sort of flux where they're high, then they drop, and it goes back and forth. And ultimately, we go back to the same thing again, is that, what were your goals you had with this story? So, Grace, I was wondering if you can provide your own insights into this discussion, and ultimately, going back to your writers community page and the sub pages, how we can learn from this and realize, yes, our first work is not going to probably get us the recognition that we want, but it should not deter us from creating and telling stories, be that fiction, nonfiction, poetry, or whatever type of writing.
Yeah. So I would say to anyone, just not just when it comes to writing, but even if you want to do stuff on social media, if you become obsessed with the numbers, if you become obsessed with the amount of reads, the amount of views, the amount of likes, instead of doing the actual writing and doing what you're passionate about, you are going to be miserable. You're going to just not enjoy writing itself anymore, and you're going to be writing for the wrong reasons. And when you do that, you're not going to put your voice is going to get taken away. You're going to lose it. You're also just not going to be happy with the books that you're putting out. I can say that, and I always say that to people, that it's not about the numbers, it's not about getting the most followers, because yeah, you've got a lot of followers, but can those followers buy books? No, not always. They're not going to do that, and they're not all going to like your book. That's just a fact of life. And just becoming like just also obsessive over these numbers, like not sleeping properly because of them, or just doing whatever it takes to get the most numbers, even if you put something out there that you absolutely despise, but people eat up because it's trendy or whatever. That's just not going to make you happy. And I'm not knocking people that do write certain books in certain popular genres. If that makes you happy, go off. Like, I know so many talented romance fantasy novelists, some of which don't get the attention that they deserve, and that just absolutely grinds my gears. But I would just say that if you let those numbers take you over, you're going to ruin everything for yourself, and you're going to be really, really sad. Like, there have been a couple of occasions where I find myself in, especially when I was younger, when I was on Wattpad, where I would obsessively look at the numbers and look at what was popular, and I would give that more attention. And I look back on some of those books and I'm just like, cringy, just really cringy. Just like, I mean that not just to say because it's a trendy word, like it physically makes me go, oof, no, that was awful. But obviously I have learned since then, and I have grown to, as a writer, to develop my voice and that. But I would say do that. And I always say as well, as a part of this page, like, it's not about getting the most followers for people, it's just about helping any way possible. I never ever say, oh, you're going to get this amount of followers, or you're going to get this amount of likes, or we're going to send this many books. No, I can't do that. That's unrealistic. And to set those unrealistic expectations, not just for yourself but for other people, is extremely damaging, and that can further just make you feel just like, why feel miserable, and like, why am I doing this? I don't enjoy this anymore. So that's what my answer would be to that. Like, don't, and always celebrate your victories as well. Like, the other day, I only saw one book last month of my debut one, but that made me happy. Like, yes, that's an extra one sold, or just something like that. Celebrate the little victories, because the little victories stack up.
Definitely. And also, to add on to that, grit transforms into talent. I had one author, previous author had on the show, say that. Well, actually, what he said was grit trumps talent. And what he meant by that was, doesn't matter if you can naturally write, eloquent prose, you're a great world builder, great characters, so forth, doesn't matter. If you can put forth the effort and the work that goes into the story to really go through the hurdles that everyone else goes through, I'm sorry, your story is not really going to pick up. Yeah. And of course, viewers and listeners, that was his opinion, his thoughts, but it definitely got the ball rolling, because in some aspects, there is truth to that. And he also said, grit transforms into talent, because we only get better as time goes on. And also, an author from 2 years ago, one of my very, very first guests, Natalie Wright, author of Season of the Dragon, had this to say: even if your 15th or 20th book that really gets your name out there for a whole new generation of readers and your audience, you can take that opportunity and say, hey, if you enjoyed this book, check out 19 all the way down to 1 and see my journey as an author. And boom, you have new audiences, you have new readers who can see your progress as an author. And then going back to, of course, the community and networking, it's really, really powerful to learn from a whole bunch of new authors, especially on Instagram. Most of my guests from last year have been all through Instagram. It's crazy, and learning their stories and reading their books is fascinating. So, Caryce, besides friends and family who have, read your work or have given you encouragement to continue this passion of yours, are there any authors you'd like to give a shout out to that you've met either on Inkit or on Instagram who have really helped you understand the industry a little bit better, or helped you or
Ooh.
guided you to be a better writer?
Ooh, how long have you got? So many people, honestly. A lot of my friends have come from Instagram, like Leigh Fuega, JL in Winchester, Gabriella White,
Yes.
Alicia Roper. Alicia I met for the page, but Alicia Roper, Bryony Best. Honestly, I could go on for hours. There's just so many, and literally a lot of the people that I've done promotion for who have either helped me by answering a question, or have helped me with marketing, or have helped develop this this page, and in turn given me inspiration for developing other things about my own writing, like Catherine Holton, for example, who created the website. She gave me inspiration to help develop that side more of my presence on social media and on this platform. And just even you, like even other things that people do, that like such as little shows like Duke Lott and his show and everything that he does, and just so many different things to just really push me out of my comfort zone. Because honestly, if you'd have told me at 16 that I've been doing this, I can guarantee 16-year-old me would have just been like, you did what? Like what? Like she would have been in shock. I guarantee. And I really, really think though that without this community, I wouldn't have kept going. I wouldn't have kept going.
I know the feeling. When I actually began my podcasting venture, that was just with indie authors that I met on Inkit, and that was fun. And then it grew to, season 2, where I was getting, people from LinkedIn, historians, and so forth. And season 3 was sort of a mixture of the two. And season 4 officially is my YouTube channel, which honestly, I did not think I'd be doing content creation in my life. And funny story, my YouTube account was actually something I had to make for school back in high school. I had to use it to do like a school project, and that was it. I haven't used it since 2013. That was a long, long time. And only 2 years ago that I realized, okay, I'm actually going to be doing this now. And now I'm at, well, with this episode would be 191 videos within 2 years, 140 subscribers, 7.5 or 7,500 views, or 7,500 views.
That is so great.
It's crazy. I did not think I would be doing this. I wouldn't even say full time, because it's part time, because I still work as a tutor.
Yeah.
But just as you said, Caryce, if you had told me a few years ago that I'd be doing content creation, I would have just been like, what? But, here I am. And ultimately, I've met so many great people on this show, so many fantastic authors, reconnecting with a lot of people from Inkit and seeing their journey. And ultimately, it's fascinating. And I've learned so much from them and gotten some great advice, which now leads us to the final question of this amazing interview, which is, and you may have already answered it in a previous question, but maybe you can add to it, which is this: what is your word of wisdom to fellow writers and authors watching this video right now who want to jumpstart their passion for writing and get the ball rolling in terms of publishing their work, or even marketing themselves on social media?
Okay. So I have several different points for this one. I would say number one, write the book.
Yes.
Write the book. Don't do what I do. Don't do it in little chunks. That's not a good idea. I would say have a look at traditional versus indie publishing. Figure out which one works for you. Pick the brains of a few writers if you want to. If you want to put little snippets of your work out there on certain platforms to get opinions, I encourage that. Just don't spam. Don't harass people. Don't spam.
Yes,
No,
that's
none
huge.
of that. None of that. I would also say, when it comes to social media promoting, use resources like CapCut. Use things like on different platforms like TikTok. Like I don't get TikTok to this day. I think I'm too old. I'm 25, but I'm just like, I think I can do it now though. Like at first I was just a bit like, but I still don't get it. But try doing a little bit on that. Set a schedule for yourself as well for when you want to post. Look at what other people are doing. If you need a little bit of inspiration, try and use some trends to help get more traction. And then when you have everything ready, like you have your cover, you've had it edited, you've had your proofreaders look it over as well. And also look for groups and things like that.
Yes.
Be it on Discord or Facebook or somewhere like that. Look for groups to help with proofreading or early access reading or alpha beta reading, whichever you prefer. And then when you feel like you are ready, set a date for when you want it to publish, and then start building up the hype. Like try and give them ARC readers, oh, could you do this post type thing, or give this a share, see if you can set up a street team, do your own social media posts too, like countdowns to it or teasers of the book, etc. Maybe even do a giveaway if you want to, like just little things like that. But don't think that your job's done when you've pressed publish, because it won't be. You need to keep being regular with it, and it doesn't matter if you post like once a week or every other day or twice a week. Stay consistent with it, and always keep like looking at new trends and things like that, or new ways of promoting, and always listen to your gut when you do these things. Like if you make a cut, like you make a cap cut, or you make a edit, or you make a trailer, or you think don't like it, that's fine. Start again, do something else, maybe do a design, maybe do like a little picture of it yourself, even or on your bed or in a pretty background. Do something, even if it's just once in a blue moon. If you're putting yourself out there, then yeah, every little bit helps.
You know, that is very, very true. Some great advice, Caryce, and a perfect ending to the very first author interview for the month of October. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed. I want to give a huge thank you to our guests today. And Caryce, before we end, where can people find and engage with you on social media, as well as purchase a copy of your short story?
Sure. So I am on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all CL Brierley, or just search my name, Caryce, Caryce. I'll probably pop up. The Writers Community Promotion page is just on Instagram. That's my separate one if you want to get involved with that. Gabriel is one of my recommended writers. He's absolutely fantastic. I remember when you joined, I needed historical fiction writer, and you just appeared, and I was just like, yes. Also, my debut short story, The Unexpected, which is a thriller romance, is available on Amazon, Apple Books, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, and on Inkit Subs. Inkit Subs is the cheapest option. It's just you can pay £1 and you subscribe to me, and then you get access to the full story. So budget friendly and easy enough to read. It's only a short book, so yeah, that's where they all are.
I will link all those down below in the description of this video, viewers and listeners. And also, before we end, I have an announcement to make. Now, since it is the Halloween season, all throughout the month of October, so from today all the way up to the 31st, my two books, The Gathering and Amanus Son of Persia, will be 50% off on ebook form with the code provided. Now, if you follow me on LinkedIn, the code is there. If not, I will paste the code down below in the description of this video. Make sure to enter that code to earn your 50% off for either the Gathering or Amethyst, or even both. Who knows? And it's all throughout the month of October. So be on the lookout for that. And again, a huge thank you to all of my viewers and listeners, the 140 of you who subscribe to this channel. It really means a lot that you've enjoyed my content. And ultimately, I am very, very happy. And again, a huge thank you to our guest, CL, for making her official debut here on the channel. Won't be the last, I guarantee you. Most likely, we'll have her back on the show for another one of her stories that she has written and published. And if you want to read those stories, make sure to follow her on Instagram, as well as follow her on Inkit to check out her stories. And as always, my viewers and listeners, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below what was your favorite part of the interview. And if you've read my newsletter, which guests are you excited to see next for the month of October? Until then, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill signing out, wishing you all a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening.